Just 1 second, it'll take about
Live.
2 seconds.
Are we live? Yes,
Yep.
we're live. Okay. Hello, anybody who's online. Oop, just going to wait a few minutes for other people to join before I get started. Streaming. Okay, yeah. It seemed to be jumping from recording to not recording. Ah, okay. Just clipping the recording. Okay, cool. So yes, I can see people joining. So hello everyone who's just joined. We're just going to wait like another minute or so for other people to join, and then I'll get started. I think I'll go till 3 minutes past. That's probably a good time. So, hello everyone. I'm going to share my screen, and then we can get started on this thing. So, hello. Welcome to Using AI to Hack Your Brain and Explore Problems Better. In case you didn't already know, this talk is related to the AI playbook that myself and a number of others have created. There's a link to the playbook there. There's a bit.ly link there for you to download. It's free. There's no strings attached. So the stuff that I'm going to go through are going to be related to that playbook. So what am I going to cover in this talk? Well, what I'm going to go through is start off with a brief overview of the principles, rules underpinning the approach of the playbook and of the specific playbooks that I'll be talking through today. I'm going to go through why the prompts work, why they're important, specifically with a lens to theme summarization and problem statements. And then we're going to end with some tips and guidance on stuff like workshops and what to do with all of this information that you've gathered. So what's in it for you? Well, first thing to understand is that the book doesn't go into the theory. It's a nuts and bolts sort of recipe book. This talk covers more detail of the concepts. So you get to learn about the prompts conceptually and the playbooks conceptually. So hopefully what that means is that you'll get a better understanding of how to use and modify for your own processes. In the end, what I'm hoping you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to roll your own playbooks. And if you do roll your own playbooks, please let us know. We'd love to hear about that sort of stuff. So let's go through the guiding principles then. So first thing first, you are in charge. The AI is not your boss. Don't let it push you around. It's not perfect. Craig Sullivan, who did the last week's talk, he refers to thinking of AI as an intern, an enthusiastic intern. And that's a really good way of looking at it. What AI is giving you is guidance. The intern is not your boss. You are the boss of the intern. So make sure that it is you that's making the decisions. Number two, be specific. So I like to think of AI as a cloud of billions and trillions of nodes of information, all kind of interconnected, all kind of related. And it's got all of the information, like everything from stuff about cookery to Fermat's last theorem. So when you are speaking to AI, when you are prompting AI, you need to be specific. Which nodes should AI hone in on, and which nodes are not relevant to your current discussion? So keep that in mind. We want to be specific. It's got a huge wealth of information. What we're trying to do is narrow down the parameters to which AI is going to work. And we can do that by narrowing it down with prompts, and we can do that by giving it some data, which we'll talk more about in a bit. And number three, this is perhaps the most important one for this talk specifically. Be aware of how you are engaging with AI. How is AI influencing your thinking? The AI, its output is your prompt. So it's your input. This is happening anyway, but being aware of it and using it to your advantage is super powerful. And I'll be exploring a little bit more with over this talk, how you can actually do this, how you can actually make use of this sort of interaction that we're going to be using. Above all, what you get when you add all of those principles together is be loose with the playbooks. It's a back and forth, it's an interaction. Don't think of anything that we're giving you as rules. You don't have to use them verbatim. You can modify based on the conversation you're having with AI. So think of it like an interaction. So you're going to be going back and forth with it. So the next thing is the whole talk is about problem statements, but why? Why problem statements? Um, this is how I think majority of people look at experimentation. It's a good model of looking at experimentation. Um, you have the experimentation flywheel, which iterates over from ideation to validation. And as you iterate over the flywheel, you gather insights, which is what those purple blobs are that are collecting into that bucket. So we've got the flavor of those insights, as you can see in the diagram, is going to be general insights or usually related to a metric like conversion rate. So this is a typical sort of experimentation model. So I like this model, but I prefer this, or I like this more. So the difference here is that the experiment flywheel is problem centric. So all of the information, all of the insights we're generating are specific to a problem or problems. So you can see there's three specific problems. So the experiment flywheel, everything that we're doing is problem centric, and the information, the insights that we're gathering are also problem centric, related to specific problems. In case this wasn't enough, there's more to it. So I want to quickly talk about empathy, because empathy is seen as being super important, because having empathy with your users, who have whatever, leads to better solutions. And this is a view that kind of design thinking kind of hinges on and kind of focuses on a lot. But this is incomplete. This, I think, completes this model. So empathy is not, and this is my problem with design thinking, empathy is not something that just happens. Empathy happens or occurs as a result of having a deeper understanding of the problem. So having a deeper understanding of the problem leads to being able to empathize more with users having that problem, and that leads to better solutions. All in all this to say that problems are an essential to a well-functioning experiment program. So they're absolutely key to a well-functioning experiment program. So with that said, how am I going to approach this today? So I thought I'd break down the workflow of how we're going to explore problem statements, how we're going to get to understand and explore our problem statements better using AI. So we're going to start with some context. So we're going to input some data to flavor our interaction with AI. So we're going to have some user reviews or user surveys or something like that. And we want to use that raw data as context. And that context is going to flavor our entire conversation, our interaction with AI. Next, we're going to get themes, extract themes from the user research text in order to explore the themes a little bit more about what people are saying, what kind of problems people are having, break them down into categories a bit more. Then we're going to be using AI to explore and understand these problems in much more depth. And I'm going to round off with some tips about documentation. So how do we visualize, how do we document everything, this entire process, so we make the most of the workflow that we've gone through. So we're going to start with theme exploration. And the key thing here is, and this absolutely blows my mind when you think about it, is AI understands. And I'll unpack that a little bit. But in order to unpack that, here's a visualization of how communication happens. So this is based on a couple of books that kind of very influential in terms of kind of flavoring my thinking about communication itself, specifically story writing. Dramatica, A New Theory of Story, really great book. Understanding Comics, really good book also about visualizing storytelling. The way I like to think of it is you have a box, and what you want to say goes into the box. The box itself is how you say it. And what happens is that the person wanting to communicate puts all of the meaning, all of the stuff that they want to communicate goes into the box, all of the subtext and stuff, all of the narrative argument, if you're a story buff like I am, that goes into the box. The box gets sealed up, and then that gets sent over as a package in terms of this could be in the form of a story. These could be the words, the images and stuff like that. That goes to the audience, and then inside the audience's brain, the box gets unpacked. So basically, what's happening is that the person sending the information encodes the real meaning, the narrative goal, the actual sort of subliminal subtext and stuff like that. They encode a message, and then at the other end, that message is decoded. And as it turns out, AI is super good at decoding. And as a fun exercise to explore what that actually looks like, I'm going to start with this prompt. So I have this prompt. Oops. So I have this prompt, and I'll read out this prompt for you. I have a story. The story is about passengers on a plane who discover a mirror plane flying alongside them. Inside that mirror plane are alternative versions of themselves who are monsters. What themes are suggested by this story? So this is a like a very basic story. So if I put this into AI, and I've done this before, so I'm not because we all know that technology doesn't work in a presentation format. And this is the output that we got. So you can see here that there's a bunch of potential sort of decodings of that story, what the themes are represented. So I think it's worth taking a second to pause and reflect on this, because this is super powerful. And this doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to AI. I mean, when it comes to AI, people talk about how good it is with summarization and stuff like that, and how not good it is at delivering at writing text and stuff. But this is it's super good at, and this is super useful because what that means is that you can jump between encoding and decoding. So if you're we've got some playbooks around marketing messages and writing articles and stuff like that. So and writing value propositions. So this is a really big key part of that is understanding how good AI is at decoding. And so then that means that you can then go back to the encoding part and figure out, okay, what if I change these little things? How would that get decoded? And even get AI to suggest some stuff. So this is all in the realm of storytelling, but in actual fact, it relates to any sort of communication. So when it comes to themes, the encoding isn't so difficult as a story. So what I've shown you there with that story is a difficult example of decoding something. Most other themes, most people, when they want to communicate reviews and surveys stuff, they're not going to encode their message so much. It's going to be much more surface level. There's still going to be some subtext there, but it's not going to be as deep as or as wide of a gap as it is with something like a story. So what I did is I took a site, Skillshare. In case you're not aware of it, it's a learning platform. I extracted a whole bunch of negative reviews from Skillshare from Trustpilot. And what I want to do is mine that text for problems. So full disclosure, what I'm about to show you is not really how I roll. I've actually developed my own application for this, but I didn't want this to become a sales pitch for that. So I'm going to do an alternative way. But know that what I've done before this step is that I've taken a whole bunch of negative reviews and then put them into a PDF. And so I've got that ready. So if I now so we're ready to do some theme summarization. So for this, I thought for funsies, I'm going to try using Notebook LM. I believe it uses Gemini in the background, Google Gemini in the background. You might not be able to access this. This is only available to the US, but if you spoof your location, you can get access to it. And what you can do is you can upload a document. So I've uploaded Skillshare CS PDF document, which contains a whole bunch of negative reviews. And if I select this, this is what Notebook LM gives us. So it gives us a summary and a list of key topics. So it's broken down stuff in terms of themes. Now, something to bear in mind when you're using Notebook LM is that these are not in priority order. So it doesn't seem to be able to understand or prioritize stuff based on most mentioned and least mentioned. Also, you don't have to use Notebook LM. You can use GPT. So in fact, in the playbook, it actually goes through an example of using GPT, but Notebook LM is available for that. So I believe it's probably going to get better at the prioritization thing, but know that in this instance, it's not perfect at that, which is again why I use my own tool, but that's beside the point. So if I select one of these, I can go into a little bit more detail. So it's saying discuss customer service issues. So it's going to go into a little bit more detail about those themes. So next, what I want to do is go into start to do some problem exploration. So to do that, I'm going to copy this prompt and I'm going to paste it in there. So this is a prompt from the playbook. And I'm going to let that cook because I don't know how long this is going to take. So if I go back to the slideshow. So I thought what might be a good idea is to go through a little bit more detail what this prompt is doing. So how is it helping us understand problems? And again, just to give you an indication as to the way that we're approaching this or way that I'm approaching this, it's all about the interaction, i.e., what do you get out of it? So the way that this playbook is designed is to be a prompt, and then AI prompt you back, and then that interaction then kind of triggers some thinking, and it's in that from that interaction that you get the value and you get to understand the problems better. So let's start with the first part of the prompt, where it says list the customer problems, in brackets, pain points, unmet needs, or desires suggested by this feedback in priority order, starting with most mentioned. And what that is doing, that first bit, list the customer problems, pain points, unmet needs, or desires. What that's doing is unpacking customer problems in terms of specific types of problems people could have. Some people like to think of it as opportunities rather than problems, but that's a side point. But basically, there's kind of like different types of problems. So what this is telling AI is giving it some indication as to what kind of lens to look at the problem statements by. And so another thing what this does is it focuses us on user problems instead of business ones. So by saying list customer problems, it's coming back with customer-centric problems. So hopefully what that interaction is doing is it helps us focus on user problems instead of business ones. And what it's also doing is being specific about that definition. Like I said, the pain points, unmet needs, or desires, that's giving it some more specificity in terms of how to look at those problems. And also, what this does is it helps us explore the various forms that the problems could take. Again, something I mentioned already. You could just look at it as opportunities. Some people prefer to look at it as opportunities. And obviously, what the priority order does is and like I said, it may not always work. And when you use it in AI or ChatGPT, especially out of the box, is to try to get things in priority order. So they're from the most mentioned. So we're focusing on the bigger problems rather than, a mix of a problem which maybe only one person mentioned. And then there's part 2 of the prompt, which is for each one, meaning each problem defined, describe the potential impact of not solving these problems. So what that does is it triggers us to think about the trouble, the T part of the Tosca framework, to understand the issue better. If you're not aware of the Tosca framework, I'll put a reference to a book at the end. It's a McKinsey book. I believe it's free to download. But it's a really good book that breaks down how to explore problems, and part of that is trouble, which is basically what they class as an issue. So what this is doing is it kind of breaks down, gets us thinking about the actual issues. And it gets us thinking about the S part of the Tosca as well, which is success criteria, how to measure success. It gets you thinking about metrics. So by describing the potential impact, it hopefully gets us thinking about the metrics that we'd be using to know whether or not when we're working on a problem that we're actually solving the problem. And finally, the impact part of it It helps us understand the importance and priority of the problem. And again, it's something to that interaction gets us to think about the potential impact a lot more. So going back to the empathy thing I was talking about before, a big part of empathy is understanding the problem and understanding the impact of that problem. For that, there's a good book, Gap Selling. I recommend reading that a lot more. It goes into it goes into a lot more detail about the impact and breaking down the impact. And then the third part of this is for each one, meaning each problem statement again, or problem that is defined, list what could be a possible root cause of the problem. So hopefully this is self-explanatory. It helps us consider what the root causes are and triggers us to use the why framework to trace a problem back to a potential root cause. So then we're not sort of treating the surface level symptoms, but instead actually treating the cause of a specific problem. And also what this does is it helps us understand, do we have enough information? If not, further research may be necessary. Like if we can't identify the root cause, like if AI gives us a list of root causes and we kind of go, no, I disagree with that. Well, that means we need to get some more information in order to understand what are actually the root causes. So what again, what AI is giving you is guidance, what it thinks possible root causes could be. It's up to you to use that as a jumping off point to actually figure out what are the possible root causes. And for that, you might need to do some further research, which then leads us on to the fourth and final part of the prompt, which is what specific questions should I research further to gather additional data? And again, what this is doing is it triggers us to think specifically, what information am I missing about the problem? And it again, what it's doing is a jumping off point. What the feedback that it's giving us is a jumping off point for us to ask our questions that we have about about just understanding and researching the problem a bit more. What additional data do we need? So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to open up the exploration of the problem, not constrain it. So we're trying to just kind of explore the problem a little bit more. An additional prompt we could use here is, can these problems be broken down into smaller, more specific problems? And actually, before I go into that, let me see if the system wasn't able to answer. Oh, great. But oh, it's come back with a little bit of that.
No.
So let me prompt it again, and then whoops, and then we'll come back. To be fair, it does say that Notebook LM is experimental. So yeah, we'll come back to that. So additional prompt. Can these problems be broken down into smaller, more specific prompts? And what the Notebook LM and ChatGPT or wherever the AI is going to give us is a whole list of problems, and then it's going to give us a whole bunch of other text to help us think about problems a little bit more deeper. But additionally, we can ask for each specific problem, can each problem be broken down into smaller specific problems? Because here's the thing, most problems are going to be more than one level deep. So it's probably the problem is going to be quite broad, and we can usually break down a problem into smaller chunks. And what we're trying to do is break it down until we can't dissolve it anymore. And what that does is ensures that our problems are narrow enough in scope for us to work with effectively. And this helps with ideation, because if the problem is narrow in scope and really specific, we get really good quality ideation out of this process. The other thing to mention here is at the ideation stage, which is something that Johan's going to cover in next week's demo, by the way, if ideation is too broad, then it might be an idea to come and revisit this because maybe there's a problem with the problems being too broad and they need to be broken down in more granular sort of fashion. So in order to document this, this is how problems can be broken down and thought of. Thought of in terms of opportunity trees or issue trees or problem trees, whatever it is that you want to call it. A problem can be broken down into smaller sub-problems, can be broken down into smaller subsection problems, and they could go in a few more levels deep. But this is a really good way to map out the problems. And if you're not doing mind mapping, by the way, you should. Mind mapping is absolutely fantastic. And another great benefit of AI is how it helps with mind mapping, because once you get to a node and you get stuck, you can use AI to unstuck yourself and kind of explore the landscape of an idea in much more detail. But yeah, for the purposes of this, problem can be broken down. Think of it as a problem tree. It roots branches out into sub-problems, smaller subsection. And I'm not going to, is this go delving into the solution thing again? But I thought it'd be useful to also point out that the same happens with solutions. So once you've broken down a problem to a specific granular detail and you start ideating on solutions, those solutions can also be mapped in a tree-like structure. So let's talk about problem statements itself. And why, so because we've got a prompt in the playbook that says write a concise problem statement of less than 60 words for each problem. Be specific, mention the impact, no jargon, use simple language. Why is this prompt so important? Well, it's important because the prompts that we get back are clear and precise and not ambiguous. We're not really looking for, it doesn't matter that the AI output is a little bit mechanical, not really fluent or natural. That's not really what we're looking for from a problem statement. In fact, it's a problem. What we want is some standardization, and we just want it to be clear and precise and not ambiguous at all. And what it does is if we do this for all our problem statement, it gives us a standardized format, which makes it easy to scan many problem statements. It just basically makes everything much more understandable, much more easily digestible, because it's in a format that we expect it to be in. And another thing it does is it gives us a good problem statement that is really clear and precise, not ambiguous, and easy for us to understand. That helps with ideation. So having a really well-written problem statement in terms of clarity just helps fantastically with ideation, again, which is something that Johan's going to pick up next week. So then tips, how to roll your own playbook. So how do you take on board all of this information and roll your own playbook out of it? And call it choose your own adventure. So think of all of the processes, frameworks that you've learned about over the years. And I'm willing to bet that there's more than dozens of frameworks, processes that you've learned, but you're not doing anything with. So just consider that for a second. All of these powerful processes and frameworks that you've invested time reading about, learning about, but then you're not actively doing. If you create a prompt to help you kickstart your brain to use that framework or process, that in itself is hugely powerful, because in that way maybe you've got a specific framework that you really like, or but you're not able to. You keep forgetting to apply it. Having AI to prompt you, to kickstart your brain to use that framework or process is a really valuable sort of part of the process of working, whether it be creating, experiment ideas or whatever it is, even personal life stuff. A tip is to use a tool called Framework Finder. So there's a link there to the Framework Finder where you can find frameworks, and then you can start to create your own sort of processes or prompts to trigger the back and forth for using that framework. And then tips for workshops, because exploring problems in a workshop format is hugely powerful. And I say that because I've done a few workshops like this, and I see the benefit of exploring problems as a workshop. But for a workshop to be successful, for a workshop to be useful, think about the output. And the output is not necessarily just problem statements, but it could be further questions for research. In fact, it should be further questions for research as well. So we'll, in this example, like we've got problem statements and what don't we know? What more research do we want? That research could take the form of user research, experiments, whatever the research is to get more information about a problem statement. And then also think about what your challenges are. So what challenges are you currently facing with ideation? So for instance, and I'm willing to bet that this is a problem, even though a lot of you may not accept that it's a problem, but there's a whole bunch of solution bias out there. We jump from a problem and not even exploring the problem to going straight to a solution, or we've got a solution in mind and we're trying to get to that solution. We're trying to munge a problem and fit it into the solution. And often there's like 4 different solutions that we've got in our brains. It's either Trustpilot reviews or changing the button text or whatever, so whatever solution it is. And we kind of go, hey, you know what, that problem? That's a solution for that problem. We need to break this solution bias basically that we might have. And sometimes, or maybe the challenge that you're facing is, and I think this is another problem as well, is tests are too big in scope. So if the problem is the tests are too big in scope, then we need to change our workshop or fashion our workshop accordingly, or design our workshop accordingly, rather. And also, most powerful here is we've got this superpower of being able to influence the way people think, influence team think. So how do you want to influence team think? So think about that when going into a workshop. How do I want people to think? How do I want people to interact with AI and have AI kind of guide their thinking process in a particular way? And this is hugely powerful, especially when you invite different perspectives into the workshop: developers, analysts, designers, user researchers, product owners, because that is always a problem with workshops when you have such diverse range of people and from different range of sort of backgrounds and stuff like that, is that it's hard to keep track of everything. But if we use the workshop and design it in such a way to direct and focus everybody's attention in a very specific direction, and specifically with understanding problems, everybody's going to come with a slightly different perspective of that interaction. That interaction is going to go slightly differently for each one of these different people when they're interacting with AI. Super, super powerful. So, but we just need to ensure that we invite those perspectives. And lastly, in a workshop, make it fun. So add a prompt that generates some unexpected output. One of this is going into the crazy ideas thing, or the ideas part. But in a workshop, a prompt about crazy ideas kind of leads to some, obviously some crazy ideas from AI. And then what that leads to is a lot of chuckles. But then beyond the chuckles, they kind of go, but wait a minute, there's something in there. So from the perspective of problem statements and understanding problems, what you could do is perhaps get AI to role play as somebody famous or somebody in a specific field, development field or wherever. And hopefully the interaction that it comes back with is suitably weird enough to kind of break down, because it's, again, one of the things that makes people more comfortable sharing ideas in a workshop is being able to kind of let their guard down. And a good way to let their guard down is have AI be the fool in the room. So if you've got AI being the fool in the room, then it kind of gives free license for everybody to play a little bit, and then that helps overall with the output of the workshop. So further reading, some of the stuff that I've alluded to here, there's the McKinsey book, Cracked It. There's Continuous Delivery Habits, which is a good book to explore problem statements and stuff. Gap Selling, The Dramatic and New Theory of Story, and Understanding Comics. So all of these are sort of further reading that you could do if you want to, understand a little bit better the concepts that are being explained today. There's some other stuff as well, but these are the kind of main core books that should get you going, specifically to do with this talk. So again, the main takeaway here is use AI to influence your thinking. Its output is your prompt. And think of the whole exchange as an interaction. Think about what you want to get out of this interaction. And when you think of it in that sort of way, it just leads you open to exploring lots and lots of different ways of working with AI in powerful sort of purposes and stuff. If you found this interesting, and if you want to learn more about the practical applications of UX, AI, the practical applications of AI specifically in UX, Craig Sullivan is doing a workshop at the Experimentation Elite, which is at Birmingham. There's a bit.ly link here, EEAI. It's a nice bit.ly link. So yeah, and also slides. You can download these slides at this bit.ly link, bit.ly BR hack. But that's the end of me talking. Any questions? I'm open. So do you have any questions? Nope. I should really open up my Zoom, shouldn't I? Lad, do we have any questions? No questions from the audience. Okay, cool. What happened to LM? Oh, yes. What happened to LM? Let's see what happened. Yeah, so we got some output here. Nice output. List the customer pain points, poor customer service, difficulty canceling subscriptions, unexpected charges. So these are the list of customer problems, pain points, or whatever. For each one, describe the potential impact of not solving the problems. Customers could become frustrated and cancel subscriptions and may be less likely to recommend. Customers continue to be charged for subscriptions they don't want. Definitely seen that. Unexpected charges, technical issues, lack of value. For each one, list what possible root causes could be. Poor causes could be lack of training. Yeah, this is good stuff. Difficulty canceling could be lack of clear instructions. So those are good sort of jumping off points. Specific questions. What are the specific issues? What is the average response time for customer service inquiry? What are specific steps the customer need to take to cancel their subscriptions? Are there any obstacles or barriers to canceling subscriptions? Yeah, this is all pretty good stuff. So what that does, hopefully, like I said, is it gives you a jumping off point. But some of these are good enough to just take verbatim, to be honest. Cool. So we have 65 people live on LinkedIn. Yay, that's good. No questions yet. Uh, what time does this thing finish? Sorry, I'm talking to Zoom chat, by the way. Whenever you want. Okay. So we can end it here if there's no other questions. If there are further questions that you maybe don't want to ask here, please you can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. It's Iqbal Hussein Ali. And yeah, if you connect with me, and yeah, ask away, ask any whatever questions you want, any further clarifications or whatever. But yeah, hopefully you found this useful. But yeah, thanks a lot for joining, taking the time.